All right, so this is episode number 7, part B. And so what we're going to do is Y.6. And what we're doing is we're graphing a line from an equation. And so you'll need two things. You're going to need the y-intercept, that's your beginning point, and you're going to need the slope because that tells you how to. B, your y-intercept is where you begin, B for beginning. So the beginning, the y-intercept in the equation always is a number that does not have x or y. So here in this problem, what do you think the y-intercept is? The number without x or y is 1 because it doesn't have an x or y. Do you know where the y-intercept goes? The banana, where does that point go? It goes on the y-axis. The y-intercept always goes on the y-axis. It only goes on this point. Am I, is this the camera? Oh, always goes on the y-axis. I thought I was the one over here. Okay, so I put the point at 1, and your slope tells you how to move. Now, there's two parts to slope because it's a rate of change. That means it's changing the rise, the y values over the change of x values. So it's going to create some type of stairs. So if it's positive, then you go up, okay? And the number, the numerator, the number on top, because there's two numbers, the number on top tells you how many to go up or down. The number at the bottom, the denominator, tells you how many to go right, okay? If you're going backwards, then you go left, but otherwise you always go to the right. So here in this problem, what is your slope? The number in front of x, the coefficient of x. It's 2 over 3. So then is it positive or is it negative? It's positive. So because it's positive, you're going to go up. So from the 1, you're going to go up 2. Now, when we go up, we're going to count blocks, not points. We're counting blocks because it has to go up a whole block. So here, I don't say 1. I move up 1, then I say 1, then I say 2 because the numerator was 2, the number at the top is 2. So I go up 2. Now I don't put a point there because it's a slope, it's rate of change, two things are changing. That means I have to make two movements. So now I go to the right and the denominator tells me how many I go to the right. So it's 3, so I go over 3. That doesn't count as 1. I go 1, 2, 3. I put my point and I'm done. All right, I hope we get an interesting one. All right, what is the y-intercept? A number without x or y. It's 3, so I put a point. Where do I put the point for the y-intercept? I put the point on the y-axis. Then I do the slope. What is the slope? The number in front of x. The number in front of x is negative 1 over 10. So because it's negative, do I go up or do I go down? I go down. The number at the top is 1, so that means I go down 1. How many do I go to the right? That's the denominator, and I go 10 over to the right. So I'm going to try to do this in Arabic. واحد, تنين, ثلاثة. Oh my God, I forgot 4. أربعة, خمسة, ستة, سبعة, ثمانية, تسعة, 10.
Perfect.
Good.
Amazing. I love it.
شكرا.
هلا بعثت لك الاسم والباسورد يعني كلمة السر فوق هاي.
All right, next one. Okay, so I do the same process again. What's the y-intercept? The number without x or y. It's 9. So I put a point where for the y-intercept? Always on the y-axis. Always, always, always. Put a point there. Then what is my slope? The number in front of x. It's a negative 6. So because it's negative, do you go up or do you go down? You go down because it's negative. So you go down 6. You go down 7. 6. Now, do I put the point there? No, you have to move over to the right. Now, this is not in a fraction. It's not written as a fraction. It's just the negative 6. So when I have a whole number, to make that into a fraction, it's always going to be the whole number over 1 because it's been simplified. -6 divided by 1 is the same thing as -6. So that means I go down 6 over 1. That's what my graph would look like. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to see if I can get to a harder one. Okay, it might look like this. That just means you have negatives. Now, what's your y-intercept? The number without x or y. It's going to be 3, so put a point at 3, always on the y-axis. Always, always, always. Banana, the y-intercept beginning point always goes on the y-axis. What's your slope? The number in front of x, but I need that as a fraction. So if it's -5, how do I write -5 as a fraction? It's going to be -5 over 1 because it's a whole number. I always put over 1. And so if it's negative, which way do I go? You go down. You're going to go count 5 down. So you start with here 1. Not there, not where you start. You have to move down 1. You've moved 0 if you think that's, you haven't moved any. You have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. I think someone's trying to ask me something. And I cannot move this thing. Oh, I can. Yeah, I know. Ooh, okay, we're getting to a good one. Look at this one. So on this one, same process. I get the y-intercept and I get the slope. So for this one, what is my y-intercept? The number without x or y. It's going to be the 8 because that's the number that doesn't have x or y. So I put a point on 8. Now, what about my slope, the number in front of x? Do you see an x there? There is no x. So that means how many x's do you have? 0 x's. You don't have any x's. So your slope is 0. So that means it's going to be 0 over 1. So that means you go 0 up, you don't go 0. You go 0 down. You don't go up, you don't go down, but you go 1 to the right. That's what 0 slope looks like. That right there, just a horizontal line. So anytime your slope is 0, it's going to be a horizontal line, just like that. So one more time, there aren't any x's, so your slope is 0. And because of that, you don't go up any, you don't go down any either. You just go to the right one. And that's what your graph looks like. I'm so glad we did that example. Okay, that's another boring one. If I press it, let me just go ahead and do this real quick. Let's see if we can get to another interesting one. Still not very interesting.